Hello everyone. Today we will be talking about KR and KP and go over examples of each of those forms of augmented feedback. To start, as I mentioned, KR and KP are both forms of augmented feedback, with KR being knowledge of results and KP being knowledge of performance. The difference between these two is that one of them, KR, relates to what happens after the performance is complete, relating to the effect of what the skill led to, and the other KP relating to the doing of the performance. Specifically, KR quote is externally presented information about the outcome of an attempt to perform a skill. So as I said, it is what happens after the skill is complete. You can look at this in various different examples. One could be whenever a baseball pitcher throws the ball to the catcher. The baseball coach or the umpire lets the pitcher know that it was either a strike out of the strike in the strike zone, or a ball out of the strike zone. Either one of those gives feedback relating to what happens after the performance is complete and what the performance did, and that is what KR is. Other examples could be, let's say, a sprinter who runs to the mark at which the coach is standing to clock in their time. The coach can let them know if they were short of the desired time, exceeded, or met the desired time. This showed whether the performer has achieved the performance goal. In rehabilitation, specifically a rehabilitation setting, a physical therapist can let the patient know whether or not they met the desired goal of, let's say, hip internal rotation, which obviously can be specific to that person. KP quote is about the movement characteristics that led to the performance outcome, or what occurs during the performance. What this means is that the form of feedback that is shown is about not the result, but what specifically a person did while performing that movement. Examples of this could be, let's go back to the baseball pitching situation. Instead of talking about whether or not the ball ended up in the strike zone, we could talk about why it ended up in or out of the strike zone. What exactly the pitcher did to cause that ball to go out of the strike zone. If the pitcher threw a curveball and it ended up too high above the strike zone, the feedback could be something like your release point was too early in the delivery, probably because you planted your lead foot too early, especially since you usually want a curveball towards the bottom half of the strike zone. Back to the sprinter, the feedback could be the coach saying the reason you didn't make the time was because your first step was not explosive enough. You need to drive into the ground when you take off rather than a weak first step.